Today, we have another interview in action from the conferences that just happened down here in Miami and Orlando. My name is Bill Russell. I'm a former CIO for a 16-hospital system and creator of This Week Health, a set of channels dedicated to keeping health IT staff current and engaged. We want to thank our show sponsors who are investing in developing the next generation of health leaders: Gordian Dynamics, Quill Health, Tausight, Nuance, Canon Medical, and Current Health. Check them out at thisweekhealth.com/today. Here we go. All right, so here we are, Vive 2022, and we are here with a handful of people. We're here with Jeff Sturman, Memorial Healthcare System out of, is it Broward?
Yep, South Broward Hospital District, South Broward.
South Broward Hospital District. And Patty Hayward is with TalkDesk.
Yeah.
And we actually talked on the Newsday show just last week, so that was fun. We're going to talk about something a little different this time. We're going to talk about the Wild West of healthcare, which is the call center, the contact center. And my experience with this is, I remember coming in and going, all right, what's our contact software? They said, which one? I'm like, what do you mean which one? I was like, well, first of all, we had 7 or 8 contact centers, and then they're like, well, this one's running this and this and this. And I'm like, all right, so I'm being asked now to pull all this information in and coordinate an experience and all this other stuff. You're shaking your head like,
It's the world I'm living right now. I mean, how many call centers do I have? I think I had 17.
Yeah.
I now have one consolidated major call center with a bunch of smaller call centers, but they're all standardized now on the technology, which is a huge win.
All right, so we are going to talk a little bit about TalkDesk. If people are wondering, TalkDesk is a sponsor of ours. I wanted Jeff to come on and discuss a little bit about what it looks like to consolidate those call centers. That's not it's not a project for the faint of heart. There's a fair amount of workflows around that and whatnot. But the reason I want you here is we're going to talk about this platform, because I think people think, oh, the call center, I got to pull together these 50 things.
Yep.
And you guys have a nice little cloud standalone solution that's what I'm looking at is comparable to what I would get from Salesforce, if not better than what I would get from Salesforce.
Yeah.
So I think it's really interesting. Talk about the Wild West. You have 17 call centers. Somebody says, hey, give me a common experience for the consumer.
Well, unfortunately, there's not a common experience, right? So that's the problem. The Wild West is you call, you can't text, you can't chat, you can't communicate with us any way our consumers want us to communicate. So to get us there is exactly where we are. It's all over the place, and so the experience has been less than good. You have to know someone in the healthcare system to actually get an appointment versus actually going through a call center. And I think we're not trying to just fix the call center. We're trying to fix access, and access is a big animal. So to your earlier point, it's the Wild West, and we're just nipping at this little by little right now.
So what do you see in healthcare as you look at this?
Yeah, I see folks really, there's an array, right? So when you think about where healthcare is with contact center versus other industries, pretty far behind, right?
Yeah, there's some industries you can actually call,
Yeah.
and they have an idea of like what books you read and what church you
know
go
you.
to
It's
and what street you live
personalized.
on. And, it's,
Yeah.
it's really kind of amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And to try to bring, think about, there is no more personal area than healthcare, right? It's so important that we provide a more personalized journey and a more helpful, right? We've all been patients, we've all tried, we've all had parents or children that have had to access, and it's hard. So to be able to provide that more personalized journey, to not have to re-explain yourself every time you get transferred, to have all of that kind of come with you is so important.
All right, let's talk about the experience then. I'm a patient of Memorial, and I have to, I'm going to start my digital journey at home. I have a couple of questions I want to ask and that kind of stuff. I come to your website. Is this integrated at all with your website yet?
Not yet.
Is that part of the?
Yeah, so the whole omni-channel experience of integrating with our website, using this as a digital front door, thinking about this not just from a contact center and access point, but as you talk about customer relationship management. So CRM capabilities, incorporating all of that and integrating it with our Epic environment is where we are today. So it is integrated with Epic, our EHR.
One of the things I find is people think about this and they end up creating silos. They go, all right, well, I got this bot on my website and I got this thing on my contact center, and now you have to knit all these things together, as opposed to thinking about it holistically and saying, all right, we need an experience platform. somebody goes to our website, they ask some questions, they type those questions in. There is a bot there, but the escalation goes straight into the contact center. The contact center can then escalate to a phone call, and so forth. And that's sort of the nirvana of this. But you have to start from an architecture standpoint and say, what are we trying to build?
Right.
And what are all the different solutions we're pulling together? So talk a little bit about TalkDesk at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I think you see out there's been a lot of folks wanting to create these different experiences, right? And we sort of had this unintended consequences of creating silos of communication versus having a unified platform for communication, which is really important. You know, we want there to be this journey that you can see. So if somebody starts with a chat on the computer and then decides that they want to then call, we have all of that information. We can see what they were asking. We can understand.
And you're going to know who I am when I call?
Absolutely, because we're integrated into the record. Your phone number is part of that. We authenticate you to be HIPAA compliant and make sure that you're not somebody else that's using your phone and trying to access your information. So it's very important that you're having all of those different aspects and being secure, and then really being able to show things like next best action so that you're being more proactive and not just reactive as well.
You know, when I talk to people about this, they're like, oh, privacy and that kind of stuff. I'm like, look, and security.
Yeah.
I'm like, look, I access my bank via, I make a phone call, they say, well, authenticate who you are. And I do that with my voice. I don't like dial in some special code or whatnot. I just say, my voice ends up being my password. It says, oh, you're Bill. I'm going to let you in and do those kind of things. There is a security aspect of this and a privacy aspect. But essentially, on the other side, you have consumers saying, how come every time I contact your health system, you have no idea who I am? It's like I'm introducing myself for the first time.
All the time, and so I think that's the like you said, the nirvana of this is creating the experience that it's just easy and taking the friction out of healthcare. It's such an overused term, I know, but really taking it out and looking at how we can get to a more standard platform. We have, I don't know how many different vendor solutions in play right now, and everyone's trying to solve this conversation, this issue, right, of consolidation, standardization, simplification. And I think at the end of the day for us, where we're going from a development standpoint with TalkDesk, from an experience standpoint, it's going to become a TalkDesk epic environment for us. There are a lot of other vendors today in play, as you know, but the chatbot, the other solutions that we're doing relative to texting, to appointment reminders, all of that ultimately is going to live in Epic and or TalkDesk.
So yours is not only like a contact center solution, it's an omni-channel communication.
Correct.
So I'm going to be able to do all the reminder text. I'm going to be able to do all the It's interesting how important texting is. People, they want to do that digital front door, but at the end of the day, 98% of people know text, understand text, and they interact with it all the time. And it's almost a preferred way to interact with your health system.
100%. And healthcare, we've been so far behind in texting. And so we've had one-way texting for a long time relative to appointment reminders, but now having the ability to do two-way texting, actually talking either to a bot or to a real person, I think will be a game changer for us.
That's interesting. The omni-channel aspect of this, but let me talk about the digital front door. So I have a lot of CIOs now that are taking the components of MyChart, they're breaking it down, they're rebuilding it, and they're essentially the model is to create an experience around it. Not that MyChart was bad, it was just sort of acute care centric focus kind of thing. And they're saying we need to put our arms around the consumer a little bit more. Are you heading down that road as well? Or?
So, just in the last 2 years, our MyChart volume, like everyone because of the pandemic, has gone through the roof, which is a good thing. More and more people are using MyChart. We haven't said today that we made a decision that we're going to get away from and put a wrapper around MyChart, a new front end. We're still utilizing MyChart as that front end, as our portal solution. We think it can solve a lot of need for us. We've talked to a lot of other vendors to think about this, but again, our focus is going to be, let's utilize MyChart, let's be Epic first strategy, let's be a TalkDesk first strategy, and let's try to make everything work as well as we can there first.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's as we have these conversations, people are probably saying, well, why doesn't he do this? Why doesn't he do this? The reality is, we're coming through a pandemic, and we're trying to do all these things at the same time. There's limited resources, and you have to focus them where you're going to focus. How big is Memorial?
So we're about $2.5 billion in revenue, 6 hospitals, 2,000 beds across those six hospitals. So we are the South Broward Hospital District.
So Broward is Miami?
Broward is north of Miami, so Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood.
Okay. So that is, it's not rural, it's fairly...
Oh, no.
Not at all.
It's, yeah, all right. So it's pretty urban and whatnot. Your population's older, I would assume?
Our population's really diverse. I mean, you would think, given South Florida, it's an older population. We get the snowbirds. Our volumes go up in the wintertime, clearly. But no, I think it's a pretty diverse population. Young families in a lot of Broward counties. So,
I was just the reason I'm asking that question is when you look at a technology platform, do you have to consider the different populations?
And the new generation. So we're kind of catering to it all. And so when you talk about texting, for example, a lot of people would say, hey, but the older generation's not good at texting. That's not true. We're seeing that our older generation actually wants to text as much with us as anyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. Homeless population?
We do have a fairly significant homeless population, so our population health and value-based care programs and our primary care initiative is very much catered to the underserved. But yeah, we kind of have it all in South Florida.
Really do. I was just having an interesting conversation with the CIO. We were talking about we're talking about access, we're talking about reaching that population. It's like, how do you reach the homeless population? And it really comes down to, from a technology standpoint, there's a handful of things we can do, but at the end of the day, it's really coordinating with people who are going to be on the ground and out there with them. Until, I don't know what the technology solution is today.
Yeah, I wish I did. I mean, maybe we can all solve that together, but
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a nice one because there is a good population that comes through our emergency departments all the time, and getting in touch with them, you know, it's funny, even the homeless population seem to have cell phones.
Yeah. Well, Patty, I was really impressed. I mean, we see this demo going behind us. I was really impressed because I was one of those people who had, the Cisco call center, and I had the Salesforce integration with that and whatnot. And the thing that killed me on that was I had fees here and fees here, and they weren't small fees either. I mean, I just two companies that want a fair amount of money for their stuff. And then I was looking at what you did, and I was like, the TalkDesk solution is really kind of elegant and really buttoned up for what it needs to do.
Absolutely. And for when we look at the provider side and we look at what you guys are doing, the things that we've put together in that workspace are really tailored around it. And it's really meant to not duplicate the EHR. As you've heard from Jeff, like Epic first, we know that Epic, Cerner, whatever the EHR is, that's where the system of record is. And so we want to be able to recall the information and be able to present it in a very actionable way to the agents, but not duplicate, and then have everything else go back in so that it's really working.
Will the physician see that there was an interaction at the call center in some way?
I mean, they'll see notes of, if there's something that they need to, but if they don't, then...
So you can push some information.
Absolutely.
See that.
Absolutely.
That's going to be important, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of times you go to see your doctor and they assume that, or the person who's coming in assumes that the doctor would know that, hey, I just had this interaction with the call center and they gave me information on, I don't know, medications or prescriptions or something to that effect. I mean, they're not a doctor, they're not going to go too far, but they might say, hey, whatever. And then they sort of expect the doctor to know that.
And worse yet, they sometimes a patient will come into a doctor and say, hey, I waited on your call center for an hour, and they're coming into the doctor office visit already upset. So I think we're trying to solve, and we talked about this previously, but we're not just talking about technology here. Fixing call centers and technology is a big part of it, and it sets foundation for us. But the operational piece of this and the way in which we're consolidating resources from a people, process, and technology component is really how we're pulling this all together.
Fantastic. Patty, thank you for your time.
Yep.
And Jeff, always a pleasure.
Great, man.
Thank you. Another great interview. I want to thank everybody who spent time with us at the conferences. It is phenomenal that you shared your wisdom and your experience with the community, and it is greatly appreciated. We also want to thank our channel sponsors who are investing in our mission to develop the next generation of health leaders: Gordian Dynamics, Quill Health, Tausight, Nuance, Canon Medical, and Current Health. Check them out at thisweekhealth.com/today. Thanks for listening. That's all for now.